Good evening. First off, we're nearly at 1 million subscribers. I want to give you a big thank you for watching and supporting the channel. That said, in this video, I'm going to condense all of my experience with paid digital ads and condense those down into 5 tips for you as a small business owner or an individual. First, I'll talk to you about the big 3 tips, then I'll share 2 previously members only videos with you for tips 4 and 5, and we'll end off with 2 bonus videos that were also only previously available to channel members. If you own a small business, I guarantee that at least one of these tips is going to help you measurably increase the return that you get on your ad spend. And if you aren't currently running or you're just thinking about running ads for your business or as an individual, one of these 100% will change your approach. That said, we're gonna jump into tip number 1. First, I'm gonna share with you the sponsor of today's video, Fastmoss. That said, this video is all about great digital advertising for your business, and one of the largest and most successful new ad channels recently is TikTok. It's newer than legacy platforms like Google and the Meta Suite, and it's driving impressive results for creators and owners like me and you. And that is where Fastmoss comes in. Fastmoss is a user-friendly, data-driven platform with over 30 tools that are essential for identifying trending products, optimizing content, and understanding customer needs on TikTok Shop. They analyze over 250 million creators and 200 million TikTok shops, all with real-time data so that you can identify blue ocean markets. For example, check out the daily hit product list in Market Insight to spot trending items, and you can get all kinds of data like GPM, sales rank, product lifecycle stages, and positive reviews. And here are the top selling and new listed rankings, where you can use those data points to find high potential products. And also, creators are being used by businesses on TikTok to grow. Fastmoss has a creator matrix to analyze high GMV videos or lives, and an AI video transcript extraction feature. And that's so you can study successful content strategies. All in all, these tools let you identify creators in special markets with the type of engagement and the follower count that you're looking for to optimally market your product and business. And finally, check out this voice of customer feature, which uses AI to analyze thousands of daily reviews from all across TikTok so you can get an idea of what your customers are saying and thinking about and looking for. You can induct why competitors' products succeed, or just find untapped opportunities in these reviews with this feature that your business and products can meet. That said, you can join entirely for free at fastmoss.com and share your account ID for a free upgrade. And also, if you're a creator, make sure to join the Fastmoss affiliate program at the link in the description. Again, that's totally free, so make sure to go hit that link to get started at no cost. And that said, let's get back into ad tip number 2. So we're talking a lot about social media in this video and how you can use it to grow your business. And one marketing and ad strategy that we've discussed in this video is TikTok, which is newer than legacy platforms like Google or Meta, and is driving really impressive results for a lot of businesses all around the world. And that is why I want to tell you about Fastmoss. And that is where Fastmoss comes in. Fastmoss is a user-friendly, data-driven platform with over 30 tools that are essential for identifying trending products, optimizing content, and understanding customer needs on TikTok Shop. They analyze over 250 million creators and 200 million TikTok shops, all with real-time data so that you can identify blue ocean markets. For example, check out the daily hit product list in Market Insight to spot trending items, and you can get all kinds of data like GPM, sales rank, product lifecycle stages, and positive reviews. And here are the top selling and new listed rankings, where you can use those data points to find high potential products. And also, creators are being used by businesses on TikTok to grow. Fastmoss has a creator matrix to analyze high GMV videos or lives, and an AI video transcript extraction feature. And that's so you can study successful content strategies. All in all, these tools let you identify creators in special markets with the type of engagement and the follower count that you're looking for to optimally market your product and business. And finally, check out this voice of customer feature, which uses AI to analyze thousands of daily reviews from all across TikTok so you can get an idea of what your customers are saying and thinking about and looking for. You can induct why competitors' products succeed, or just find untapped opportunities in these reviews with this feature that your business and products can meet. You can join entirely for free right now at the link in the description. That's completely on the house, and if you do want an account upgrade, just share your account ID, and that will also be free. And if you're a creator, make sure to join the Fastmoss affiliate program, also at the link in the description. So go hit that link and get started for free. And that said, next up is strategy number 2. That said, we're back, and tip number 1 is offload to AI. There are a lot of tools and strategies and tips and approaches and different settings and filters and so on that you can customize with AI, or with digital advertising platforms today. So Meta ads, TikTok, Google, Snapchat, X, Reddit, the list goes on. And what people often do, especially people who are new to this, is they try and they overwork it, they overdo it. They put tons of filters and constraints on the audiences. They upload 150 different graphics. They set up 12 different ad sets per campaign and campaign groups and all these fancy keywords and do all these things. And in reality, what they're often doing there is just overcomplicating unnecessarily. And oftentimes the much more cost-effective strategy is just to let AI do its thing. These digital platforms exist to make money for their advertisers, otherwise no one long-term would advertise with them. And they've developed all kinds of tools to help you as an advertiser optimize your spend and get a return. So oftentimes as a business or an individual, you can get a lot better return with much less work and investment on your end by just setting up tracking correctly. So conversion tracking, things like a pixel on Facebook and the Google tag on your website or in whatever kind of other system you're running or what you're optimizing for. And then if you set up that conversion and that tracking loop correctly, and then create, say on Google's side, a Performance Max campaign, or on the Facebook side, you turn on all the Advantage Plus settings. That in of itself, if you just give it a little bit of money and you let it run, that can do a lot. And the reason for that in part is that people accidentally kill their own campaigns oftentimes when they don't really know what they're doing and they try and do everything all at once. And an example of that that's really common is audience targeting, where in Facebook, oftentimes you're going to be much better off by just not providing any audience signals or filters for the audience, like let's say setting the age range to only 18 through 24 because that's your ICP, and setting behavior targeting and so on. And instead, if you just set the location filters and you have your ads and you give the ad or the campaign $20 a day, oftentimes Facebook is going to do a much better job on its own and actually just reach the people who are your best customers. So we've talked in other videos on the channel through a lot of these AI tools on Google and Facebook. These are part of the platforms. There's nothing to buy there. And also tools like Fastmoss, like I touched on just a minute ago, are great enhancements to that process through AI. So in sum, for tip number 1, don't try to do everything yourself. Use the tools out there, and at the very least, split test some setup like that, like a Performance Max setup or just Advantage Plus with minimal targeting for Meta and Google respectively, in addition to the campaigns where you do everything yourself and go really, really specific into what you think is going to sell the best to who you think is best set to receive that. Okay, we're nearly at those bonus videos. Tip number 2 is to sell to the root problem. And this comes down to the fundamental positioning of your offer. It's not the specific copy or like the sales text, quote unquote, that you use or headline. It's fundamentally, what are you selling? How do you think about how you're selling and position that to the customers that you want to sell it to? I think HVAC is a really good example of this, right? There's one way to sell HVAC, and that is, okay, you can upgrade your HVAC system for $199. Click on this ad and we'll get you the upgrade. Now there's 1,000 different ways to say that. There's, okay, upgrade your HVAC system today. Get your summer special on the HVAC system. We're running a limited time discount on HVAC upgrades. We've worked with 150 local homeowners just like you in insert city on a HVAC upgrade. But that's all the same positioning. An entirely different positioning would be, okay, your family can breathe cleaner air today for just $199. And here's the evidence as to how this $199 is going to make your air cleaner and how this reduces the toxic germs that may be causing sickness among your kids, your husband, you, your wife, etc. That's the same service, an HVAC upgrade, that makes your air processing and filtering better and does in fact reduce germs and mold and so on, but an entirely different positioning that targets a root pain point that people may not think of. Another one for HVAC could be lower your energy bills, in that if you have a bad HVAC system that's inefficient, you could be paying more on your energy bills. And for a lot of people, that's a core problem. And now what you're pitching is, okay, for $199, 85% of our customers save over $30 a month on heating, for example. That right there is, okay, you're gonna make a return in 8 months. You probably didn't know you had this problem. You feel the pain point acutely currently of the energy bill you're paying. And so again, same service, but entirely different positioning. And it's easy to say in practice, and maybe it sounds, right, or like it fits into just the HVAC niche specifically, but in reality, this applies to nearly every product and service out there. And so I suggest just sit down, talk through it with people, talk through it with AI chatbots, and think about, for your product or service, how can you fundamentally reposition it? Or what fundamental pain points can you target that is a different angle that you haven't tested out prior? And at the very least, you don't have to switch all your ads over to that immediately. Just test it, right? Just spend 10 bucks a day on ads, see what people think on that, and oftentimes you're gonna find that beats out the original positioning that you had on your ads. Okay, now just after this is those bonus videos, but that said, tip number 3 is test every stage of your funnel just as intensely as the top level. When we think about a digital advertising sales system or funnel, lots of people focus on that first stage, that top part where people see your ads, right? They test all these different creatives in the primary headlines and the descriptions in the call to action at that, like, let's say the button of the ad. Is it learn more? Is it watch now? Is it buy now? All these different things. But in reality, oftentimes you're gonna lose a lot of people who were qualified, who made it through the first stage on the next 6 stages of the funnel, whether that's a book now, book into a sales call with some qualification questions, whether it's just sign up for a newsletter or grab an email, whether it's buy a product or book an appointment for an in-person, whatever it may be, there's a lot of other steps there. And very few people test those variations in those steps as intensely as they do on the top part of the funnel. And in reality, you can get just as much or more yield, and I talk about this all the time, on those bottom or middle steps of the funnel versus if you focused on better creatives, on lowering your CPL on Google, on Meta, on TikTok, on Reddit. And oftentimes it can be easier and cheaper to test those other stages of the funnel. So if you're currently running ads, I hope at least one of those is going to help you and change your approach. If you're not running ads, make sure to incorporate, if not just one, all 3 of those tips and approaches in your ads. And like I said, next we're gonna jump into tip 4 and 5. These are videos that I previously recorded for real businesses, and then we'll jump into those 2 bonus videos. We'll jump in my computer to do that. Let's get into it. What I'm going to speak about here is something I've gotten a few questions about now, and that is regarding something called creative fatigue when we think about Facebook ads, Google ads to a lesser extent, but the focus for sure is Facebook ads. So that's creative fatigue. What that means is essentially, even if we have an ad that's doing really well, performing really well, it's going to keep doing worse over time because people have seen it. Your whole target audience has seen it, and eventually the performance is poor. Now, what this infers is that you need to create new ads all the time that are radically different so you can keep selling the audience. Now, I want to delineate between 2 things here, and this is my response to this question of creative fatigue relative to something like audience, in that you need to pull those 2 things apart. So I want you to think about the word avatar, and that's going to be your client avatar. Whether that is a property manager, if you're in, say, commercial plumbing service contracts, for example, or maybe it's a homeowner. So let's list those out. Let's duplicate that right here. Let's go homeowner, and we'll add another one. Let's say restaurant general manager.
for example. And maybe you have five, maybe you have 10, maybe you have two or one, whatever it is. Now, look, if you have a audience that is 10,000 people, like there are 10,000 restaurant general managers in LA, and that's your service area and your business, then yes, if you run a creative that works really, really well, but you just tap out all 10,000 of those people, the performance will get worse over time because there are no people left to sell. However, that is not the problem that most businesses like yours run into. If you have a winning ad, keep running that ad until the performance measurably gets worse, and you will find that oftentimes it doesn't get worse, especially, or it takes so long to get worse that you don't really care because you now have, tripled your business. Um, but then just because you have one creative that's working really well, one concept for restaurant general managers, does not at all mean that you shouldn't be testing creatives across the board because these are not the same thing. There are homeowners and there are restaurant um, general managers. So you still need to do a lot of creative testing for homeowners. Maybe you already have a really profitable funnel for the restaurant GMs. And then this is where the best performer plus prospecting campaign structure comes in that I suggest. You can see that in other videos where we have our prospecting campaigns, and most of our budget is in the best performers, right? Most of the budget is going toward what the data has told us is doing really well. But we still test new creatives with a little bit of budget, and then that way, if we sell through the whole audience, we sold through the whole audience. That's great. If we have actually exhausted the audience, then we're still going to be rolling in some new campaigns, some new creatives there through the prospecting campaigns. Uh, that is kind of the solution to creative fatigue, or really it's a non-problem in the first place. And I think people, especially, and it's purely speaking to businesses like yours, I think they kind of overestimate the fear of that a lot. And if you have things that are working really, really well in the first place, that's a big win in of itself. So keep testing things for sure. And then also, when we're talking about thoroughly test every option that's out there, um, you can't say that you're in a situation with creative fatigue if there are tons of options, tons of ad types that you haven't tested. For example, let's create a matrix where we have ad types, and then we have our avatars. Let's make this a little bit bigger. Let's make this a little bit smaller. Okay. So what's going to happen here? We're going to have five different types of ads, and we're going to have five different types of avatars, or however many, again, right? Like you do you, what makes sense for your business. So we have our, let's say, avatar. This line can represent homeowners, this one restaurant GMs, this one property managers, and then we have our ad types, right? We have a testimonial ad, we have a before after ad, we have a kind of AI like service gone wrong ad. We have all these different types. So we have combination A, we have B, and then we have C, and every one of these little boxes represents a different combination of an avatar and an ad type. Now, unless you've exhausted every single one of these ad types or these creative genres for every avatar, then there's still a lot of room left to test. And this ties in again into prospecting and best performers and that whole campaign setup. So if you're dealing with creative fatigue, and that's actually what the data says, and you haven't run through your whole market, which is again pretty uncommon relative to just getting to that place in the first place, then just walk through all the ad types if you have the budget for it and the avatars. You have your list of all the ad types for the avatar. Exclude the ones you've already done. So, for example, the avatar ad type combination that meshes with the uh, best performer that you already have that you're getting now the creative fatigue on, and then go create the other types. And that's kind of like the overarching testing in the first place that you want to be doing if you have the budget for it. There's ways to just skip through that and do that a lot quicker when you're just starting out, but assuming you have some budget down the line, once you have that client base to do this right, so to speak. So that's it's a little system right there. Again, this ties into previous videos, so I suggest you watch those for a little bit more context on this. But otherwise, hope you found that helpful. Ciao. Okay, hello. So this is a protocol for testing forms when you're running Facebook ads on the Facebook side. And this is a very common problem that you run into when you're running ads to residential or commercial leads within a defined geographic area. And that's the quality and the quantity of leads that you're going to get. So if you run ads with a lot of just AI kind of optimizations thrown on there and no audience targeting, you're going to get a lot of leads, but are those the leads that you want? And what you can do is try and filter those on the back end, like after you get leads to a website or to an instant form, then that's when you start filtering. Or you can do it on the Facebook side. And this is a protocol for doing it on the Facebook side, because ultimately, if you figure out targeting on the side of Facebook, then the AI, right, the algorithm is put to work for you. And this is, I think, one of the really the valuable part of it, you can put numbers to the quality differences or the spreads. And I'll give you an example there, right? If we're running an instant form, maybe on one end of the spectrum, focusing purely on the quantity of leads that we get from this ad, we want minimum friction. So maybe in that form, all we say is give me your email and your phone number, or maybe just your first name and your phone number, and then you call them, right? Minimum friction, just name, just phone number, and then you give them a call. A lot of those leads are going to be bad, but maybe you get a lot of them, and so it's worth it, and your cost per lead is $10. And then let's go a little more to the quality side. Let's throw in, are you a homeowner as a question? Just yes or no, are you a homeowner? Well, maybe you're still going to get a lot of leads, but now some of them are going to think, oh, no, I run an apartment, so pressure washing or my plumbing services are going to be a fit for me because my landlord is going to bring in a plumber. And then the cost per lead jumps to $12. But now your leads maybe are 20% better. And so maybe that, in terms of the actual CAC, the net kind of cost to acquire a customer, maybe that's better for you. And then we can go all the way to the extreme right of that spectrum. We can go to the full quality side. And that could be, okay, we want your phone number, your email, and your full name. We also want your address. We want owner, and then we want a description of the service that you want, right? So 7 questions, very specific responses. The people who go through with that, either they're trying to BS you or they're a really, really quality lead. They're exactly the type that you want. And maybe you have to pay $30 for that, and it's great and that's profitable for you, but maybe you have to pay $150 for that just because your qualified leads aren't willing to spend 5 minutes filling out a form. You don't really know that. So then again, this is the protocol to test it. And what that protocol is one campaign, one ad set, all with the same settings, but you do want less targeting so you can just kind of get the numbers here. And then within that ad set, you're going to set up a number of ads, each with each incremental step in that form. So again, we have the quality versus quantity form. Full on focusing on quantity has minimum friction, just contact information. Full on quality has every question you could ask to get the kind of the ICP confirmation out of them, like to figure out if they're who you want to sell to and if they actually want your service. So just create duplicates of those forms. One has just the minimum, one has an additional question, and then keep working your way up. So you might have 3 variations, you might have 5 variations of the form. Then what you're just going to do is set up all of those forms in the same ad set. And you're going to start getting data pretty quickly on, okay, what is converting here and at what cost. And Facebook is going to optimize for the kind of lowest cost ad in this ad set. So for example, this ad yesterday brought in one lead for about $11 per, and that has no location, instant form. And again, these are using the same exact ads, the same graphics, the same copy. All we're testing, the only different thing is the instant forms. So then if we run this for a little bit, then we benchmark it at, let's say we run this for a week and it evens out at $11 per lead. Okay, that's great. I'll just turn it off now. And then the next cheapest ad is going to be optimized for over the course of 3, 5, 7, 10 days. And then we're going to benchmark that. And then you start to benchmark incrementally what the cost incurred by an additional little quality bump by adding a question to a form. And then you can actually do the numbers on, okay, what is the optimal form that's going to produce the lowest CAC and really CAC to LTV, right? Like bring you the most revenue because they're actually qualified at the lowest cost. So if you do it that way, then you run that system. You go through, kind of work your way up. You do that over the course of a month or two. Now you know what the best form for you is, and then you can go and test the graphics and the copy and everything else. But that's a really critical step of the funnel that you want to get right, and you do want to test because otherwise you're going to get a lot of bad leads. You're going to have a super high CPL, uh, and you don't actually know kind of which direction you should go in there with removing questions from your forms or adding questions. Again, just do it like this. It costs some money up front, but it's a super simple setup. You just go in every, again, like 5 days or 7 days and just turn off the ad here that's converting at the lowest cost, and you'll be done in a few weeks up to a few months. Okay, cheers. I want to talk through one very specific strategy in your cold calling scripts and approach that is as close to a hack as you can get in this space. Overall, it's really not something that you can quote unquote hack. Like it's down and dirty. You just got to call, you got to talk to a lot of people. But again, this is as close to a hack as you can get in terms of actually driving conversions. What that is just reference a trusted third party. And I'll give you an example. Let's say you are in Chicago and you're calling commercial leads for your plumbing business. So let's write that out. Chicago plumbing. And you call let's go with KFC, right? And there are a lot of KFCs in Chicago. There's hundreds. Well, you call this first KFC, or you call the first 100 KFCs, and of those, you get one deal, one service contract, and the name of the general manager is Brian. Okay, you have that one deal. So now, should you go back to just calling all types of restaurants across the whole city of Chicago? No. Instead, we're going to use this hack. What we're going to do is go call every other KFC that you haven't called, and keep in mind there's a whole vendor process here. So if you've gotten through, there's much less fear or friction there as well. And then you're going to start the script off by saying, and let's say this new KFC owner that we're dialing, his name is let's go, John. Okay. Hey John, I'm doing some work over with Brian, just two neighborhoods down from you. And do you have 30 seconds to speak about this? Or hey John, I'm working with Brian on some pressure washing down the street. I was just walking by. I saw your driveway. Looks like it could use some little refurbishment. Can I stop by and just speak to you in person sometime? Right? Whatever it is, if you just reference Brian versus not reference Brian, and you reference the fact that we're already a vendor, we already do work for you, you know Brian, or you know that Brian also is also just like me, John, is also running a KFC restaurant in Chicago, then it practically becomes a warm call as opposed to a cold call. You're going to see a really big difference there. And you can make a whole business out of just closing one KFC and then just going and becoming the guy that does the KFCs in Chicago or the McDonald's or the Subway, whatever it is. There's a lot of power in that. I highly recommend that you use it. This doesn't apply just to restaurants. You're talking property managers, I know are common. Any type of commercial deal. If it's the same company, that's great. Even if it's not the same company, then even then, just like let's say you close uh, event, um, not financial. Let's go properties, and they're a property manager. Well, let's say you close Sarah at Event Properties, and now you do some of their properties. Just go to Google Maps, find the closest property managers to them geographically, and say, hey, I'm already doing this work for this company similar to yours right next to you. Let's talk. Or then just go into whatever the kind of the regular picture process in. And this ties back to what I was saying earlier right here. Don't sell. The farther away you get from selling with your cold calls, the better results you're going to get. And so this quote unquote hack is a direct reflection of that, where you're delegating the authority and the trust to a third party, because that's how business works, like everything we do, in a sense, we delegate to other people if we can, and life generally. So if I'm a business owner and I want a service, I, nearly all of the time, I'm just going to talk to someone I know who's in the same position as me that I trust and see who they've gone for. And so you build so much authenticity, so much trust and authority doing that versus just saying things like, I've done 1,000 properties. My clients are super happy, et cetera, et cetera. So if you're not doing this, do it. If you aren't even calling yet, just think about how you can get the first KFC, you can get the first property manager, and then start to sell kind of outward like this with that third party. So there you go. Okay, this is an important one. This is going to be the follow-up protocol for leads at some point in your sales funnel that just aren't responding to you or getting in touch with you. It could be inbound, could be outbound. This especially applies to commercial. It does apply somewhat to residential as well, but priority is commercial for this. Um, I'll paint a picture for you. Let's say that you call people, you call business owners, and you have a meeting with them, and then you go and you go and sign service contracts later. So you cold call, and let's just expand that cold call, and you run ads that drive leads to fill out a form, and then you have a meeting, and then that leads to a closed meeting. Uh, we'll call this a discovery meeting. Uh, you are going to have a pretty severe drop-off rate or a pretty severe no response rate if you are most people or most businesses like yours. For example, maybe you have, let's say, 100 people who fill out the form, or for every 100 of those, you can't get in touch with 20 of them. So you only actually book in the discovery meeting, or maybe this automatically books the discovery meeting, but only 80 of them actually show up. And then for the close meeting, only 70 out of the 80 show up. So you're losing like, and this honestly would be a lot worse in real life. Like this number would be more like 60, but we'll run with 80. You're losing 30 people to just, they're not responding to your call. They didn't show up to the meeting. Um, and that's pretty big, right? If you got to 70 up to 100, then you're talking like a 40+% yield to the whole funnel. So what can you do about that? I'll give you one specific tool and then one concept or strategy. Basically, call more than you think you should. This is the key. Uh, a lot of people are comfortable with just continuous calling, and especially with the cadence of calling that I'm going to mention in just a minute here. But genuinely, if you just call people who aren't responding to you a lot more than you think they should, and text them and email them, eventually you're going to get a response. Now, the specific tool that I wanted to introduce and this ties into cold calling and the whole funnel there, is local number dialing. And the problem with using your phone number to call leads that aren't responding is that if they think it's spam because they didn't save your number and you call them every day, they're just going to block the number. And so local number dialing is a solution to that, where you can go and you can find dialers online. You can just search local number dialing, or let's say local prospect dialing, cold calling. This is your German search results. I am visiting family, which is why you see this. There are plenty of services. So Orem is a great one. Outplay, there's one called Concert as well. It's really solid. All of those have that local presence dialer, just like this. And what they're going to do is they're going to switch the number that you call from with their software, and it's still going to be in your zip code or in your town, or in the town of the lead, but it's going to be a new number every day. And what this lets you do is literally just every day you're going to call that person once until they pick up. You're going to have a list on the dialer, and you're going to call them until they pick up with a different number. Now, you got to spend like 50 bucks, 100 bucks, a few $100 a month to get that. So if you're not there yet, no worries, just defer to call more than you think you should. But if you can't afford a local prospect, a local number dialer, go ahead and do it, and then just call everyone who doesn't respond every day until they pick up, and send texts. Again, I know it sounds awkward, but there's a lot less animosity toward that, especially since you're using local numbers than you may think, because they're never going to know that you called them every day. They just know that they got a call every day, and then eventually when they pick up, oh, it's you, and now you're talking about, oh, the discovery meeting that they missed. And so many more people than you would think is specifically on the commercial side, just putting aside residential for a second, are just busy, or they just forgot, or their assistant didn't put it on the calendar. So you can see a pretty meaningful yield. You can get like 10-20% plus more revenue out of these funnels a lot of the time, if not more than that, just by implementing a much stronger follow-up protocol in your sales system. So there you go.
Okay, there you go. I hope you all enjoyed that and found something useful. That said, I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.